Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this picture. Mathematical patterns can be found throughout nature and can make very good visual art subjects. With careful lighting and photographic technique, it's possible to capture the underlying complexity of nature's mathematics. And in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Okay, so I'll start with the subject. This is a Romanesco broccoli and it has a fractal repeating pattern all over it, which can make it quite a nice subject for this sort of thing. Now, in order to mount that, I'm going to use this lab stand. And I prefer to use lab stands like this because it gives you a lot more control over exactly the orientation of the subject. Okay, so we'll just pop this in the jaws here. There we are. And you should be able to see that I've actually tilted the whole thing over slightly. You can see that this face is virtually vertical. And I've done that on purpose so that when I place my camera on the top of this tripod, this whole surface will be in focus in the same plane. Okay, so for the camera then, I'm using this Phase 1 medium format digital camera. Now this is actually on loan to me from an aerial imaging company. And it has this digital back on it, and that has a resolution of 80 megapixels, which is actually quite large. But the sensor itself is also very large. It's a true medium format sensor. And that gives huge dynamic range. Okay, so on the front of this I have an 80mm Schneider lens. Now if you were doing this sort of photography with a full frame camera, this would be the equivalent of about a 50mm lens. Alright, so I'll just pop this on the top of the tripod here, like that. There we go. Now, one of the quirks of this particular camera system is it's designed to go in an aircraft, and therefore there are very few controls. There's not even a viewfinder on it. So in order to use it, I need to plug it into Capture One software. So I'll do that and turn it on, and we'll see what we get. Okay, so now it's all turned on and powered up, and we can see the controls on the software here. So here I have the shutter speed, which at the moment is set to 1/100th of a second at 100 ISO and an aperture of f4. So with those settings and no flash set yet, what I'm going to do is just capture an image just to see what sort of contamination, if any, we get from the house lights. Okay, and there you can see that we're getting a rather blurry image here and we're getting various bits of contamination from the house lights. So the next stage would be to, one, focus up the camera, so I can do that now. There we go, so I'm just guessing at the moment. And before I change any of the other settings to cut out the house lights, I'll just grab an image and see how that's improved the focus. Yes, that seems to have improved it a little bit. It's difficult to tell at the moment. Once we get a flash set, it'll be a lot easier. Okay, so to get rid of the contamination from the house lights, what I'm going to do is change these settings. Now at the moment I have a shutter speed of 1/100th of a second. Now that happens to be the flash sync speed for this camera. However, this particular camera also has a shutter in the lens. So what I'm going to do is, instead of using the focal plane shutter, which is at the back here, I'm going to use the shutter in the lens, which is capable of syncing with flash up to 1/1000th of a second. So just going into the software here, I'll just change that from focal plane to leaf. And I'll change the shutter speed from 1/100th to 1/1000th. So with those changes made, I'll grab another image. And there we are. Unsurprisingly, it's completely black, which is what we want. So now, any light which I add from a flash will be the only light which affects the subject. So this is 500 joules, not particularly powerful, sort of mid-range. There we go. We'll just turn that on. Okay, so just at an arbitrary energy level, I'll grab an image and see what we get now. Okay, so you can see from this image that we're actually getting an exposure now. It's not bad actually, but you can also see there's various things in the background here which are a bit distracting. So what I'm going to do is just put a flag in the way at the back here just to take that out. So basically it's just a big black cloth. So there we are. So now that will just stop any of the background distracting and taking away from the subject. The other thing I'm going to do is just add a small reflector to this light just to concentrate the beam a little. So if I just pop that on there, something like that, there we go. And with those two changes made, we'll just grab an image and see what we get now. So the black flag has taken all the distraction out of the background, and by putting the reflector on the flash, I've actually concentrated the beam a little too much. It's a little too bright. It's also very harsh. If I just zoom in to 1:1, everything is very contrasty, and also that the focus isn't in quite the right place yet. So the focus point is back here, and I want the focus point in the front here. So that will need adjusting. But to start with, what I'm going to do is just get rid of the harshness of this light. And I'm going to do that by putting a diffuser just across here. Okay, so to hold the diffuser up, I'm just going to use this C stand. There we are. Just pop this diffusion material. This is 216 diffusion material. This is available from all sorts of places. This one came from Lee Filters. There we are. Let's pull that down a little and get that something like in position. There. So with that in position, what I'm going to do now is grab another image and see what we get this time. And at the same time, I'll just adjust the focus to see if we can bring it into focus a bit better. There we are. That seems to be a bit better. You can see the difference that it's made now. So if I go to the previous image, this is what we had. It's all very harsh and a little out of focus. This is what we've got now. So the majority of it is in focus and it's much, much softer. But the lighting still isn't quite right. This side is a little bit dark. So to address that, what I'm going to do is just add a reflector. So here I have just a piece of card which I've clamped to a piece of wood so it stands up. We're just going to place this here so that it will recycle some of this light back into this side of the subject. Okay, so with that in something like the right position, we'll grab that and see what we get. Yes, that seems to have made quite a large difference. You can see along this side now that that is all filled in quite nicely. So this is what we had before, this is what we've got now. So the image is coming along, but it's still not quite right. I think what I'd like to do is just rotate this ever so slightly just to make the composition a little better. So what I'm going to do is just gently release the clamp and just rotate this a little bit. There we are. And with that, I'll grab another image and see how it looks this time. There we are, that's a bit better I think. The other thing that I want to do is just tidy up the focus on this a little. You can see if I zoom in all the way that it is sharp, but it's not sharp completely all over the subject. So I need to increase the depth of field. So the way I'm going to do that is by changing the aperture. Now at the moment it's on f4, and I'm going to take that all the way up to f16. Okay, so that's the 4-stop change, so I'll need to increase the energy from this flash by 4 stops. So I'll just do that. There we go, and we'll grab that again. There we are. So the overall exposure is about the same as it was before. However, now if I zoom in, you can see that everything is in sharp focus, which is what we want. Okay, so that's it for actually capturing the photograph. What I'll do now is go into Photoshop and just do a little bit of post-production. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and I've loaded up the file of the image that I captured earlier. So the first thing I want to do is just make a duplicate of this. This is the camera original. So what I'm going to do is just go onto the layer here and just right-click the mouse and ask for a duplicate layer, but ask for a new document. And we'll just call this Romanesco. I just click on OK. So there we are. The software has made me a copy and it's called it Romanesco. It's at the top here, so I can shut down the camera original. And this is the one which I'll be editing. Okay, so the first thing to do would be to just get rid of this support here. And the way that I'm going to do that is literally just paint it out. So the background here is black, so I'm just going to make sure that black is selected as my foreground colour. And I'm just going to pick a paintbrush, but I'm going to paint it onto a new layer. That way I've got some more redundancy, so if I make a mistake I can just get rid of the layer or edit this particular layer. So this is the layer that I'll be painting on. So I'm just going to zoom in a little. In fact, I'm just going to go all the way into 100%. Just move around the image. Here we are. This is the bit we're interested in. So I'll grab a paintbrush. Now the paintbrush I've got is relatively small and quite hard. So this is the sort of line that I'm getting from it. So I'm just literally just going to go around the very edge at the bottom here. So just doing a little bit at a time, work my way around the subject, like so. And once I've done some of the fine bits, I can now zoom out a little, like that, and make the paintbrush a little bit bigger. And just paint some more out until we get rid of the whole thing. And with that done, I can now just zoom back out again. So the next thing I want to do is just crop it down a little just to concentrate the image. I'll just use the cropping tool. I'm going to use a specific ratio since I'm using this for video, and I'm just going to concentrate that down a bit like so. There we are. Just move that into the middle there. Something like that. There we are. And I'll just zoom in a bit more now. There. So even after that rather severe crop, I've still got plenty of detail in this image. So there we have it. So the mathematics of nature can provide a very good subject for visual art photography. And just with a little bit of careful lighting and technique, it's possible to capture that in some glory. And I think that's worked rather well. Okay, well I hope you liked watching how I made that image, and if you like watching these sort of things, do click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and hit the like button. Thank you very much for watching.